Alright everyone, as though we needed more evidence that Nikki Haley was a police-state authoritarian, doesn't really represent, anything resembling populism. We've known that for a while. Warhawk, etc., etc. Now we've got to grapple with her news statements, and she shouldn't have made them 24 hours before, right? She's bragging about winning some sort of unofficial youth poll for the GOP, saying, oh, haha, I come out on top among, young voters. Tom Brady was at 4%, though, so I'm not sure how great the poll's methodology was. I have a feeling that it was like an online poll and somebody decided to game it or something like that. It doesn't really make sense. Now, she's attacking the First and Fourth Amendments with her latest statements. Link in the description, not archived. It's a video clip, so you can see her in her own words. The first part of it actually makes sense, which is that you need to have social media firms release their algorithms publicly. I agree with that. They should be more like what Twitter is doing, basically. If you saw how many levels of algorithmic throttling some of us creators were clearly under, like on places like YouTube, it'd probably astound people. It would definitely lend credence to our claims that, hey, no, we didn't just all of a sudden in a 24-hour period simultaneously all become less talented and likable and interesting. It had to do with the site flipping a switch, in the most literal sense. I've claimed that before. There are still some people who think it's sour grapes. I can point them to my statistics on Rumble and similar sites as proof of the concept as well. So I agree with that. But the second part of her statement is completely off the chain. She's like, well, and the other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that everyone online is identifiable. There should be no anonymous posting. So in other words, an internet ID system, effectively. Well, that certainly violates the right to privacy. It certainly would create more problems than it solves. She's basically saying, well, it's a national security threat. This is a national security threat that 4chan trolls are allowed to call me a cunt. And then it's basically what she's claiming. It's probably just she's got thin skin. And she's one of those CIA associate sort of warhawks of all time, and she doesn't want people to be able to post anything publicly that's private without having their actual identity associated with them. Well, okay, what about people who are legit dissidents? What about people who are, survivors of domestic violence or something? What about how the hell do you deal with stalking? You to look at the person's material, are you going to track that too? So you can track how many times someone visited, someone's webpage or something like that, and they'll have access to that information? Because that's about all you would be able to do. Otherwise, it'd be easier for stalkers to game that system, because then the person's real identity is associated with their online accounts. It would make no sense. By the way, it would incapacitate certain websites. You realize how many YouTube accounts would come down if you had such a system where you had to publicly identify everything about yourself? And by the way, why is it the public's right to know? Why is it the government's right to know? When I was a kid, you were told not to put anything private about yourself online. It was considered a bad idea because you can get, again, stalked. You can get scammed, you can get targeted for abuse and so forth, you can get killed. In some countries, would this apply to other countries, by the way, that are where people are using U.S. tech firms? I think this would also contravene a number of international norms as upheld by other countries. Like in Europe, you have the right to be forgotten, etc. Unless you're a specifically public persona, you can have things scrubbed. Well, how would this particular system even work if the U.S. tech firms are going to have European users? Like the U.S. is going to become a highly policed intranet like China or something like that? She doesn't explain the nitty-gritty, of course, because she can't. Because she's talking out of her ass. She has absolutely no idea what she's talking about. There's no national security threat from anonymous posting. But there's a grave human rights threat from not allowing anonymous posting. By the way, you'd basically be getting rid of certain websites. 4chan would no longer exist. I guess she has a problem with 4chan and Reddit and sites like that. So hey, all of you goofy Reddit users that probably support Nikki Haley because she's female, you might want to switch candidates and find somebody else. I know that most of them are probably Democrats anyway, but any GOPers on there, Haley would probably be their gal, at least up until now. Maybe some Ramaswamy fans. I don't know. So Nikki Haley's decided that she wants to torpedo her own campaign by directly countermanding the Fourth and First Amendments. That's basically what it would do. Algorithm part of it, if she had just come out and said, well, I think that one of the things we need to do is make sure there's corporate accountability to their user base, and so the algorithm should be made public. That's great. You actually would have had a win in your campaign if you had just shut your mouth at that point and not elaborated further. Oh, by the way, while we like accountability, really what we want to do is centralize the internet. Look at what Biden is proposing with the FCC rule right now, with the Digital Equity Act. How is that fundamentally different? By the way, that's a backdoor to this sort of thing as well. I'll be talking about that separately. So you sound like Joe Biden, or like a W, like after 9/11, hey, we need to spy on them library records. We need to know exactly who's who on the internet so that if anyone says mean thing, then we'll know exactly who's saying mean thing. It's a bunch of bullshit. And Nikki Haley, I mean, I would say she should know better, but, I know Nikki Haley well enough, based on her public statements before, that she's just psycho. She's not quite with it. I think she may be a sociopath or something like that. There's a reason why she's seeking the office that she's seeking. It ain't to better your life or mine. It ain't to fatten her wallet. So what else is left? I don't think that she cares about civic decorum or protecting the United States. She's sort of the dedicated hawk candidate. In that sense, since everyone who supports her probably is really pro-war, because otherwise I can't imagine why they would, then maybe this actually is a good pitch to like your core fan base. She's just trying to shore up the support that she's already got, because she's like, well, they're probably still support the Patriot Act, so they're not going to mind this now, are they? And some of the MAGA fans, of course, the algorithm part, that's actually a positive concept. It's been spoken of by other candidates. Trump, DeSantis, I think, has mentioned it. Certainly Ramaswamy. So that part's fine. But hands off the anonymity. If I want to shitpost and I don't want to be personally identified, that's not a national security threat. It's called having fun. It makes the internet a little bit more entertaining, the fact that you don't always know exactly who's who. Does it lead to problems? Yeah, like catfishing and scamming and stuff going on. That's not going to go away just because things are identifiable anyway. Plus, it's legally unenforceable. You'd be running up against against international treaties probably. Certainly laws in Europe and certain Asian countries with regards to internet privacy and so forth. You'd run up against the U.S. Constitution. You'd get sued by multiple states. It would be injuncted in court and you'd lose anyway. So basically Nikki Haley's also telling you the first thing that she intends to do if elected, which she won't be, but if she were in La La Land where she's been elected, her first order of priority is not something that deals with foreign diplomacy or the border or the Bidenomic disaster of an economy. No, those can wait. My first goal is to go after 4chan. Well, other people with much more clout than you have tried that before. Let's see how far that it gets you. I bet there's some funny memes already there of her right now. If not, then clankers, fall out, because there should be. That's about all. Peace out.